Okay. My fingerprint's not being accepted on my iPad. There we go. Okay, which way's is it that one? Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Okay, hi everyone. My name's Jo. As Alison said, I'm a user researcher at Kainos. And today I want to talk about user research, funnily enough. That's what I know about, and kind of what it is and what it isn't. First of all, do we have any user researchers here? No. Okay, great. Anyone that works with user researchers? Yay! Okay. So I wanted to focus on user research in the public sector, mostly because that's where I think user research is happening the best. And I'm kind of going to explain a bit of why I think that. So yeah, let's see what we're doing today. So as Alison said, building awesome products. So I had to think about this. And I don't really build products. I'm going to put my hands up now. And so I just didn't really know how to relate to this. And I had a little bit of a think about it. And I decided, actually, you know what? What we do is we actually define what awesome is. This makes my job sound way cooler than it is. But I think it's about also asking those questions to everyone on the team about what they think awesome is, and then me going and understanding what the user thinks is awesome. And a kind of example of this is last year I moved home. This was before all the elections happened, and I suddenly thought, oh, I've got to register to vote at my new address so that I'll be able to vote. And I did what every normal person does. I Googled how to do this, and it came up. Pretty much the top result was register to vote, gov.uk. Went on. It says it takes 5 minutes. It took 5 minutes. And then afterwards, I didn't phone all my friends and tell them about it. I didn't tweet about it. I didn't update my Facebook status. I just ticked it off my list, my adult list of things that I have to do. And you know what? That's what awesome is. In public sector, it's not about kind of remembering it and shouting about it and go, oh my God, that was amazing. It's about actually just doing it, and it's done, and it was easy, and now I can move on. And so that's kind of maybe changing the idea about sometimes what in technology we think awesome should be, this kind of rememberable thing. So yeah, more about kind of defining what awesome is. It should be simple. It should be, straightforward. It doesn't have to be something that people are always going to remember. It's about, and I think the best thing about actually making stuff in public sector, it's about it being more efficient and reliable. This is like the public's money that we're actually building these products with. So actually, it should be for them to be able to use. So a little bit more about kind of understanding what user research do. Our main job is to kind of understand the user needs, and very specifically is the user needs. It's not customer needs, because people don't have a choice about whether they use government service. There's not a wide range of things. Like if you want to apply for a passport, unless you know some particularly dodgy people, you're going to have to go to the government. And if that process is really simple, then that's awesome. If you don't have to kind of be calling up or sending letters or waiting or worrying, especially if you're going to go on holiday, that's like the last thing you want to be kind of concerned about. Another thing that people often talk about is business needs and government needs. These things don't have needs, they have goals. And you've got to kind of be very clear about business goals and needs. They're important, but it's not the same as the user need. Defining that is kind of the first thing you should be doing before kind of going on building any service or any product. So I want to kind of maybe give people a little bit more of a comparison. So market research is obviously, maybe you've spoken to market researchers when they call you up and ask you random questions. And it's not that user research and market research are completely different, and there's a lot of people that come from market research and move into user research. But I found this, someone posted this on Slack or something, that's why my source is really like random, but it just really helped sum it up for me. Market research is about what people say and what people are buying. It often focuses on like large sample sizes and kind of broad insights, kind of this big data. User researcher our role is to find out what users do. Like, what are they actually doing? They might say that they like something, but what does like mean? Like, how can you actually make that into insight? So actually watching them do something and kind of understanding their motivations. And it's how people use that service. Also focusing in on small sizes. I think I often kind of get questioned around, but you've only spoken to 5 people, like that can't be proof. And it's just like, but actually the insight you get from that is so deep and so focused that you can kind of find out a whole load of other things. That's not to say that you shouldn't consider big data, but I think it's around using big data to kind of understand where there might be a problem area, and then actually using that more focused, more qualitative research to actually understand why. And not, you can see that, I don't know, there's been a drop of 80% of people at one point in a website, but you don't know why they're doing it. And whereas when you talk to people, they might say all sorts of things that your team could never imagine. And that's kind of another kind of key role of what the user research does. So who do we work with? Well, we work with designers, all sorts of designers. We love them all. UX, UI, or user experience, user interface, content designers, service designers. And we work really well together because I go out and talk to the users, and I come back, or maybe they come out with me if they're feeling lucky, and we have a nice conversation, and I try to get to the grips of like what the user needs and try to explain to them and get them to kind of empathize with what those user needs as well, and then they start thinking of solutions and coming up with great designs or prototypes. Then I might go out and then test those and come back, and it's a circle so that we're always improving, we're always kind of crushing any kind of assumptions that we make about users by actually going and talking to them. I also work with business analysts and data analysts and product owners and development teams. And I'm not going to say they're more important to work with, but it's really important that user researchers are working with all those people as well as the designers. The design, I see kind of designers, it's a bit like kind of getting a thumbs up from your mum, like I know they're on my side. That's how we kind of all work together. However, with this lot, it takes a bit more of a kind of convincing. And I recently told a development team that one of our users had really struggled to go back. So they were looking at an application and there was no navigation. They had to go to the browser and press the back button. And they just couldn't work this out. And literally there's a film of it and they're kind of trying to work it out, can't do it. And the lead developer pretty much laughed in my face. He was like, yeah, but that's not really a thing. I was like, it definitely is a thing. And then at the next show and tell, I, got this video, put it up there, and suddenly it became a little bit harder to kind of laugh at that. Like there's so many things that we take for granted, especially as people that work in technology, that, but that's easy to do. And it's like, yeah, it might be easy for us to do, but actually you can't, especially when I work a lot of the time with kind of internal people. So I work with people doing a job. And actually, like, they're busy doing their job. I couldn't do their job the same way they might not be able to do my job. And it's about me appreciating that and, kind of understanding that. So a lot of the time when people talk about kind of research in general, let alone user research, they kind of focus in on methods. I'm not going to bore you by listing out loads of different methods because I don't really think it's important. Shoot me now. I think that getting out and talking to users is the most important thing. And whether that's through kind of interviewing, whether that's kind of guerrilla testing, where you kind of just spring up in a place and start talking to people, I don't think it's important to kind of get bogged down in those details. I think what is important is that you consider the kind of ethics of what you're doing. So you have to think about the people who participate in your research. Are you going to make them feel uncomfortable? Are you going to put them in danger? Is the information that you're going to have about them, is that going to harm them in any way? That's why you have things like consent forms. So although I kind of want you all to go out and do some user research, I think these are the things that you need to be thinking about rather than the methods particularly. I don't think you need to focus in on that as much. Another key thing within user research, and something again, like, I do believe that anyone can go out and do user research, but without empathy, you're going to completely miss the point of why you're doing it. Empathy is kind of, again, a kind of slightly contractual thing as a user researcher. Every time you do a presentation, you have to mention empathy because it is really like the number one kind of skill to have. And it's very much about putting yourself in the shoes of someone else and being able to relate to them. And, this can be, I've done user research with some of the most kind of marginalised sections of society, which are kind of very challenging. And being able to empathise with those people is obviously kind of, it's difficult to kind of relate, but equally it's like obvious that you should be empathetic to their situation. Equally, I've worked with like lawyers in corporate companies who are kind of complaining because they want to sit in their pajamas and read like 300-page documents that have been printed out rather than online, and you're like, problems, you know, it's difficult to kind of really justify kind of feeling really sorry for them, but it's my job to empathise with that, and it doesn't matter how big or small that, you know, there's a need or there's an understanding that I have to bring to the role. And it doesn't, I can be empathetic and I can understand these people, but then the big thing for me is then actually going back and communicating that to the team. And again, that's through all different kinds of methods. Obviously, showing videos of people doing usability testing is always a kind of crowd pleaser, because you, again, as I said, you can't kind of deny that what you're seeing. It's easy to relate to it, but that's not always possible. Like, you know, sometimes it doesn't make sense to get out a camera. It doesn't make sense to do usability testing. So you've got to find other ways of communicating that back and getting the whole team to really kind of empathise with those people, with those users. And finally, another key thing is kind of context. And context is important in everything, and research especially. And I think also for me giving this talk, and why I kind of have emphasised kind of working in public sector rather than private sector, I was really fortunate to start as a user researcher at the Government Digital Service, which I'll be honest has given me quite an idealised view of what user research is, because they kind of know how to do it. Like, they are doing it kind of top of the game, and you also see the impact. So you do research, and actually, I remember when I first started, they told a story about how some ministers had wanted to cut like 50p from some sort of child benefit. Also, it was some sort of kind of what seemed like a really small amount from some sort of benefit. And a user researcher went out and did some research and played this back to the minister, and it was videos of people saying that 50p is the difference between my son being able to go to the football like club that he goes to. And suddenly those ministers had to question, okay, that's maybe nothing to us, but actually that's quite a significant thing for other people. And so in government you can really see that how it translates, the fact that it actually is now impacting on policy. And it's also kind of, but I've also worked for like in private companies. I worked in a legal tech software company, and that kind of gave me a more of appreciation for product development and how awesome it can be and how kind of exciting it can be. And I just think it's, the main thing is about private sector for a change, like actually learning from what government's doing, because you can never go wrong by actually putting the user needs at the centre of what you're doing. And having that context, like it's a win-win situation. So I guess the big takeaways are awesome may not be what you think it is. User needs, not business needs. User researchers work with absolutely everyone. We're not just sitting away in a design team. Empathy is key, and always consider the context. Thank you.